Hello, welcome back to episode 12 of my NBA 2K22 Toronto Raptors MyGM series. After closing out the season last episode, we're in a position to start advancing through the play-in tournament and hopefully make it into the playoffs this year. Are we a playoff team yet? Well, I'd like to think so. Just being able to get that experience for a lot of the newer guys on the team would be amazing, but I'm worried about the quality of teams that have made it to the play-in tournament. Our first matchup would be against the Miami Heat, who are a really good team, especially on the defensive end. With the addition of PJ Tucker and Kyle Lowry, they had some much needed championship experience, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a serious run this year. On the other hand, a lot of our guys haven't even made it deep into the playoffs before. OG is the only real exception, and he was backing up Kawhi Leonard back then. If we can't beat the Miami Heat, our second matchup would be between the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls. I won't go too in depth about these teams, but they're both pretty good, and I'd be scared to go up against either one, to be honest. Anyways, let's hop into this game against the Miami Heat and see if we can secure our spot as the 7th seed in the playoffs. The start of this game goes according to plan. We win the jump ball and then we send the ball to Caris LeVert immediately, who calls Scotty over for a pick and roll, which results in a layup for the rookie. We continue the quarter pretty strong, eventually working our way up to an early 8-point lead with this OG layup. The Heat go on a little bit of a run of their own, due to us fouling none other than Isaiah Thomas trying to close out a 3-point shot. We defend the final play of the first quarter and end at a score of 25-22, which I think is a really good sign. The second quarter isn't too interesting. We hit our own slew of nice shots throughout the quarter, including a Caris LeVert 3, gilgeous-alexander 3, and a nice little mid-range from Caris as well. The Heat end up having their moments too, including a quickfire inbound with 0.7 seconds to go that gets Kyler Hero a bucket as the shot clock ends, and the Heat end up winning that second quarter as they lead 53-51 heading into halftime. Our main game plan heading into the second half was to limit turnovers. We were pretty careless with the basketball at times, and that was one of our biggest struggles as a team. We do get the first score of the second half with a little run around by Buddy Hield to get an open mid-range shot that could have just as easily been a 3. We managed to go back and forth with the Heat for a little bit before pulling away to a 10-point lead after a tough Caris LeVert shot over Duncan Robinson, and then we managed to hit another shot, which happens to be a wide open corner 3 with OG Anunoby. The Heat continue to scrap their way back into it though, and we're further hampered by a questionable clear path foul, which diminishes our lead to 4 heading into the final quarter. The Heat make a nice read in transition to start the fourth quarter and spark up their squad a little bit. Precious Achiuwa manages to shift the momentum back into our court with this huge block all the way to the half court line after ejecting Victor Oladipo. The action starts to pick up with around 6 minutes remaining, where we jump out to a 7-point lead with a nice find to Caris LeVert under the rim. Straight after that, Scotty Barnes misses a switch on this play, which causes Isaiah Thomas to jump back out to the 3-point line and get a wide open shot, which he's just not gonna miss. Bam hits this wild circus shot over Scotty Barnes, and all of a sudden we've only got a 2-point lead and we've lost our advantage. I accidentally initiate a switch a few plays later, which lets Oladipo blow by and tie the game. I mean, are we really this susceptible to crumbling under pressure? Luckily we get a nice pass from Scotty Barnes, which leaves a glimpse of sunlight for Shea to cut in and get our 2-point lead right back. Butler dances around OG and leaves him stunned for a second before dishing the rock inside to Bam Adebayo, who's honestly so close to being blocked by Miles Turner, but he gets the shot off and ties the game once again. The following play is an example of pretty much everything that could go wrong. We'd been struggling with creating offense, especially at the dwindling minutes of this fourth quarter, and this play wasn't any different. We put the ball in the hands of Caris LeVert, who gets Scotty Barnes to come set a screen and tries driving in, but gets stripped by Jimmy Butler. PJ Tucker starts running the length of the floor and passes to Kyle Lowry, who's wide open, and hits probably the biggest shot of the game, leaving us stunned. Caris ends up going cold, but manages to run through the following play and create enough space to give him an open dunk that kind of eases the burn a little bit. Scotty gets switched onto Jimmy and he contests his first shot but lets him get the offensive board and put it back in, meaning we're now down by 3 with a minute remaining. The next few possessions move so fast, but Scotty bricks the layup attempt after Bam comes to help and Miles Turner steps in for some reason. OG is a step too slow to contest Jimmy Butler under the basket as he gets his 8th point of the night, and it feels like all of those have been in crunch time, which is just annoying. Out of our timeout from that previous possession, we end up with what felt like an open dunk for SGA, but the pressure from Bam continues to be the story as he soars in to contest it, and Shea's attempt bounces right off the rim and into the hands of PJ Tucker. We managed to get a steal a bit later on and turn that into a terrible shot by Buddy Hield, and at this point we've pretty much lost grasp of the game. We foul Bam, who gets MVP chance at the free throw line, and with limited time remaining while being down 7 points, there isn't any feasible way we can work our way back into the game, and we have to just let Kyle Lowry dribble out the clock. It's a disappointing end to the game, but we know what our mistakes were and know that we have a little bit to work on heading into our next game, which is just 2 days away. After we lose that game to the Heat, we head to the locker room to find out that the Atlanta Hawks beat the Chicago Bulls in the 9-10 matchup, which means Atlanta will be traveling to us in Toronto for the final spot in the playoffs. This upcoming game feels a lot more tense than our previous one, because if we lose, we're heading into the offseason with no draft picks, no legitimate playoff experience, and all-round disappointment from the fans. Our main guys are going to have to etch into that 40-minute territory this game, because it's a must-win game for sure. We travel back to Toronto and have a single day of rest before suiting up to play the Atlanta Hawks at Scotiabank Arena. Trae Young is clearly the best player on the team, averaging 26.5 points and 8.5 assists in this 21-22 NBA season. Funnily enough, the very first play of this game includes a Trae Young 3 off the double screen from Hunter and Capella. We come back down the other end with a really tough shot from Caris LeVert, but I mean, hitting tough shots is kind of something that he does consistently. We start getting outscored in the first quarter because of the spacing that the Hawks have around Trae, and almost end up going down by 20 as John Collins wheels in this tough shot. After employing a 2-3 zone on defense following a timeout, we get some crucial possessions where Buddy Hield heats up coming off the bench, hitting 4 out of 5 of his threes, including a buzzer beater at the end of the first quarter to make the score 44-32. We got smashed in the first quarter, and it wasn't just one guy for the Hawks. They split the scoring pretty evenly between all of their players, but our zone defense definitely helped slow that down a little bit. Buddy Hield was still having a ton of fun in the second quarter with a very tough 3 that cuts it down to a 7-point game around the 10-minute mark. A gilgeous-alexander 3 helps us cut the lead down once more, and we actually managed to steal the lead from the Hawks as Buddy Hield runs in transition and gets fouled by Bogdan Bogdanovic to send him to the line. The game goes back and forth with many lead changes and ties for the next few minutes until we manage to capture the advantage heading into halftime with a wide open corner 3 for OG Anunoby's buzzer beater. After that, OG is quite tired heading into the second half, so we decide to start a red hot Buddy Hield. Anyways, we start this half with a Shea and Scotty alley-oop, which we should definitely try and execute a bit more in the future. Buddy Hield's always going to be ready to shoot the ball off the catch, by the way, and here's a prime example of that, where he gets his feet set before catching the ball and goes up in one smooth motion. This helps propel us to a 9-point lead, which we managed to hold into the fourth quarter, eventually ending with a score of 97-87. OG had been pretty quiet this game, but gets a nice and early 3 in the fourth quarter, followed by a dunk a few minutes later. We eventually secure a 15-point lead with this Caris LeVert layup, and we're pretty much in the driver's seat for the rest of the quarter. The Hawks managed to cut back in a few times, including this deep 2 from Bogdan, but we're clearly clicking with this beautiful motion from Caris LeVert, which keeps us in a firm lead. The Hawks make it a 5-point lead, which got me thinking of ways we can hold them for the rest of the game, and it gets even worse when John Collins gets this lucky tip in that makes it a 3-point game. Luckily, OG can take advantage of the smaller Trae Young in the post and brings us back in front by 5. From there, we play some really good defense, and although we can't get anything else to go for us offensively, we hold our lead with some brilliant defense on the final possession of the game, where the Hawks can't get anything up, and eventually ends in a 120-115 victory for us. The Toronto Raptors, we're back in the playoffs. While I admit that I don't have any ambitions to make it to the NBA Finals and win a ring this year, playing in that elevated setting is going to be important for all of our guys. We want to keep the same team heading into next year, and I'm just glad that we get an opportunity to compete in the postseason.